Disclaimer. The material in this podcast is not to be taken as a replacement for therapeutic services. This is for entertainment purposes and represents the sole perspectives of the individuals involved. If you are experiencing an emergency, please contact the appropriate authorities or professionals. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the TikDocs. I am your bubblicious, vibrant host, Dr. Caitlin Baker, aka That Fat Doctor.
And since we're doing a dozen episodes, we're going to do a dozen roses for y'all, and I am going to help deliver them. I am Dr. Terrell DeGans, aka Dr. T, also known as That Black Doctor on TikTok.
So, we just filmed our mini sex series episode, and now we want to talk about love at first sight.
What is love? But we're also going to talk about the love languages, because of course, it's one thing to have love, but you need to know how to show it. You need to know how you receive it. And sometimes those are different. So we're going to get into a lot of this stuff. And I'm assuming some of you don't really know your love languages, so this might be really interesting for you.
Yeah. So, T, is love at first sight possible?
Survey says no, it is not. Listen, I know it's this like magical thing on television and movies. Like you see that person walk into the room and there's somehow doves in this cold area and there's a bright shining light and you know this is the one. That's not real. It's never been real. And you're gonna think it is, it's not.
It's not. So what's actually happening in that moment? Let's break it down. Break it down now. Okay. So I think it is a rush of hormones because maybe you saw someone that you think is super attractive. I also think that people who experience this are looking for love, looking for a relationship, because you never hear about a married person and being like, it was love at first sight. I looked at this other person. No, you have to be open and looking for it, I think is one of the other parts of it. But anyway, a huge hormone influx, infatuation. Maybe your jollies are tingling a little bit because damn, this person's the finest person you've ever seen. You fall in love with the person that you think this person is based on what they look like.
Mm-hmm. And if they happen to match that, great, but no one's going to match it perfectly because no one's perfect, right? And there are always going to be these instances where you see someone and you're like, I know who this person is. They remind me of another person. I know how they're going to act. I know what they're going to say. And you have this idea of them before you ever really get to know them. But that's not love. That's an assumption at best.
It's fantasy.
It is.
And while it's fun and might be whimsical for a little bit if you actually introduced yourself to this person and maybe... The thing is that people think that this is real because they end up with the people that they claim to have love at first sight with.
Mm-hmm.
And you might end up with that person, but that doesn't mean that you love them the first time that you saw them. You could have had extreme attraction and interest the moment that you saw them. Love comes later. Love is emotional. Love is formed over time with an attachment. Love is oxytocin. And oxytocin does not just, no, you got to work for that shit. You got to form those connections, form those relationships. And then the oxytocin gives you that good, okay? Takes a while.
Yes, it does give you that good. But yeah, it's the time spent, it's the connection made, it's the trust in one another that comes over time. It's the ability to be vulnerable and know that you're not going to be hurt because you're vulnerable. All of that comes with time and experience.
Yep.
You don't have that on first sight. And if you do, that's probably an issue that you should get checked and go to therapy for. You're not supposed to give all your trust and affection to a person you just met, which I'm a guy. I've done that.
I was just reading an article about this, and it said that men are more likely to report love at first sight compared to women, which I found very interesting. What is your take on that?
I mean, I've been in many a situation where granted, this is mainly me as a very hormonal teenager growing up and college person growing up, where I'm like, this person's gorgeous. And maybe you like hear something, so like you hear their voice, or you're noticing something. You're like, I love their laugh, I love their smile. Like, if I can just talk to this person, imagine the things that we can do together. Imagine the life that we'll have together. And you start creating this fantastical world where you're together. And of course, you want things to work out. Doesn't ever. The and here's the thing. There was one specific instance with one of my exes where I was into her the second I saw her, and apparently she was also into me the second she saw me. And that's one of the most toxic stories I have, because things went real fast, way too soon. And you don't want on, I almost said her name. Oof. You don't want on the second day that you're like getting to know each other that you see their first name written next to your last name, because you're like, oh, you're that level. Yeah,
Yikes.
you got insane. So
Yikes.
infatuation is a very heavy thing, especially when your hormones are like populating now.
I think another part of it is when you were talking about the fantasy of it, I think that's why people stay too. Because that initial imagery of like what it could be or what you imagine to this person to be like, you put that on them, and then you maybe start a relationship with them and they're not meeting those expectations. But you still think that there's that potential there because that's what your fantasy is. Even though that person has no inkling or the wherewithal to become who you think they should be. So you have to adjust your expectations and know, like, what is this person in front of me actually like?
Mhm.
You know, what are their habits? What are the things that they do that annoy me? If you have a partner and there's nothing about you that annoys them, you're full of shit. You are full of it, okay? I can tell you 10 things off the top of my head that drive me insane about my husband. And I will if you want me to, because I'm always looking to vent. But
How do you really feel though?
it is mostly like what we argue about, the dumbest stuff. Like, he's okay, I bought these lights forever ago and he hasn't put them up yet. And every time he has downtime, I'm like silently judging him, like, where did those lights go? Oh, you put them in the closet? Oh, what are you doing today? Oh, okay. If that's what you think is the best way to spend your time.
Real subtle.
So subtle. Until I just straight up yell and say, put the damn lights up. But anyway, that's just part of being in a relationship. Like the relationship, the idea that it's perfect and you find your perfect match and everything is great and dandy and they think the exact same way that you do and you never argue about anything.
Mhm.
That is just the furthest thing from the truth. And if I had a client who came in and told me that, I'd be like, okay, who's capping in this relationship? Because no.
See, in those situations, I bring up one of my favorite therapeutic lines, which is, how many lines do you think there are? There's only two. The ones you tell others, the one you tell yourself, the ones that you tell yourself, and that is one that you're telling yourself right now.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, and it's so common though, right? Like, if you, and I've worked in a school. I've been in many school settings. I've worked with many children over the years, despite not ever trying to. Um, and you hear this a lot, like, oh my gosh, I love this person. This is my life forever. This is my girl. Like, you don't know what that means yet. Like, you don't love yourself, so how are you gonna love others? Oh, that's a big one. You're never, ever gonna really love someone else until you learn who you are and love who you are. Because as you're constantly changing and evolving, and they're changing and evolving, you may not end up in the same place that you started.
That's going to be a hot take. I'm ready. That's going to be a hot take. I agree. As someone who has both hated themselves while in a relationship and loved themselves while in a relationship, And I agree with T in that when I was not proud of myself or who I am, I allowed a lot more than I would now. So I felt like I didn't have a voice. I felt like none of my decisions that I made were correct. And that's just because I didn't have any self-love. I thought that the other person, like, I was so lucky that this person wanted to be with me. And I would do anything to be in that relationship. But in the end, like, that doesn't end up working because you become a doormat with no opinions. And there's a lot of issues with that. You can also, I had my COVID vaccine yesterday, so your girl's a little loopy. It's fine. Anyway.
I'll jump in here.
Yeah, jump.
So, jump. All right. So here's the thing, right? I'm assuming everyone listening is just like in the room with us. We've all gone through some form of relationship. And if you haven't yet, for good reason, right? So you want to find someone that makes you feel special. You want to find someone that gives you the same amount of attention that you're going to give them. You want to find someone that communicates the same way you do. And there are going to be a lot of things on your list. Some of them don't need to be there. Some of them really do. And really differentiating what's a want versus a need, it's going to make a difference. But there's only so much that you can compromise, and you have to really figure out where that line is for you and what it means to compromise on those things. For me, with my past relationship, we didn't communicate on the same level, and it made a difference in the long run, and it continued to make a difference. And there were a lot of compromises, but certain things you shouldn't have to compromise on. And for me now, I know that's one of those things.
And I think so. And then this is a great transition. How do you know what you want in a relationship? How do you know what kind of things are important to you, and how do you feel love? And that leads us to, what's your love language? So T is a little bit more familiar with this concept than I am. I mean, I know what it is, but I'm not like one of those people that's like, what's your love language? Like, I don't even know what INTJ, like, I don't even know what my thing is for that. Myers-Briggs, I don't know. So anyway, T, what's a love language? What's that all about?
You briefly mentioned it. I would not put a lot of focus on the Myers-Briggs just in case, because I've been on a Tinder or two and seen like I'm INTF, like haha INFJ. It's like that means nothing. It's
nobody even knows what other people's are. They just know what theirs is. So yeah. What's the point?
You're not helping your case. Anyway, moving on. I believe the original author was Gary Chapman. I'm sorry if that's not the original one. That's just the one I have off the top of my head. And there are considered to be 5 love languages.
Yeah, you're right, Chapman.
Okay, so yeah, the 5 primary ones, at least the ones that are well known, are words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time. I think receiving gifts.
And acts of service.
Yeah. So I personally don't like the quizzes in terms of like their accuracy. I just think of how I am and how I've been in relationships, and that's how I kind of define it. And I can see a little bit of everything, but for me personally, I'll just say like in terms of I'll look at it. I'll look at it now, and I'll see which ones apply to me, which ones don't. Right. So words of affirmation, I like that. I like having conversations with people and knowing that
you look great today.
I don't believe you, but I appreciate it. So thank you. And I love your pink hair, and I think it's well. But I don't need that from you because I already know you love me. That's this podcast.
True. So. But however, it is good to get those reminders. And if you're someone who really thrives on that, you're going to be someone who maybe needs to be reassured every day. I posted a video yesterday in which I was sitting in the dark and I had my husband walk in and turn the light on. I didn't tell him I was dyeing my hair. It's none of his damn business. It's on my head. So he comes in and he goes, what the fuck? And then I was like, do you like it? And he said, it's different. And then I said, that's all I get. And he said, yeah. And people are in the comments and they're like upset that he didn't give me more. And I'm like, that's because he knows I don't care what he thinks. It doesn't matter to me. It was funny. Like, I knew he wasn't going to like it because that's just who, like, but I don't care because it is my body and my hair. So that was just an example of.
Do you appreciate words of affirmation? What's your take on that?
I mean, I definitely do, but again, like, I'm someone I'm confident and I'm self-assured, and I don't necessarily need other people to validate that because I validate that within myself. So it's important, and I always, it's nice, but it's not my main love language.
Right. And I just like having communications, but I would say there's some percentage there, but it's not really high for me. Like, you do like to hear one song, like, yeah, I really care about you, and like, you mean, like, that's nice. It's always nice, but
For sure. I mean, every once in a while I'll get a message that'll like bring me to tears, but I just got one the other day actually. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a nice reminder every once in a while, but it's not my main function.
and I'm actually the type of friend that every once in a while I'll just send like a text, like, hey, think of you, appreciate you, things like that. So
I never get those texts.
Yeah, you never need to, because I talk to you now.
I still want to know that you care about me, damn it.
Too bad.
I'm gonna get text now. Anyway.
So the next one, according to this website, is acts of service. That's one that I am very good at showing. I don't care about receiving. So this is me in terms of how I speak, but not how I hear. Acts of service. I will get gifts. I will get little reminders. I will make little cards. I will help in any way. I will give advice. I will be supportive. I will do anything and everything to show that I care for you as a person, whether it's a romantic relationship or personal relationship. I will bend over backwards to be there for my friends, for my family, for my loved ones, so on and so forth. But if you do it for me, like, I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't care for it.
So that's the difference for me between like gift giving and then acts of service, which they're very similar. And someone's calling me. Go away. Acts of service for me is not about gifts. It's like someone taking time out of their day and being like, hey, I like if I came home and my husband was like, hey, I did the dishes so you didn't have to. I'd be like, that's how you would show me love, because you know that I'm stressed out and you're trying to take things off of my plate. That means more to me than a gift. I feel really uncomfortable getting gifts. I love giving gifts, but and so acts of service is I am also would say that that's the way that I show love, because I'm always like, what can I do to help you? And I think that I enjoy receiving that so much, because there's a theory that I've recently read about that your love language is something that you were missing in childhood, or something that you didn't have, and now that's what you considered love, because maybe you didn't feel loved before because you didn't get this thing, so now you're focused on it, and that's what you feel like portrays the idea of love to you. So for me, I was always that person who, like, I know everybody, I know their names, I know things about them, I take time getting to know things about people, and I am doing things for them, and that's very important to me. And I think that's because I always wanted somebody to care that much about me and to be that interested in me, to do things for me, because I was always doing things for everybody else. So for me, someone that matches that level with me of like, you're not here to take care of me, this is a partnership, we're taking care of each other, is what I needed. So that's me.
I can see why that theory holds water.
Yeah, it's not proven. It's just a theory.
Theory, yeah. So I'm kind of on the fence between it's something that you were missing and then you're looking for it to kind of be more fulfilling, versus it's what you learned and picked up through your experiences, and therefore you figure that's the way to do it. Right? So we can get into the negative version of that, but I don't think we need to do that for a love episode. But if you see your parents, or maybe not even your parents, just older siblings or really close friends or whomever, people that you value their experiences and their opinions, and they show their love or their love language is a certain way, you start to pick up on that. So, oh my gosh, my older brother is showing that he loves his girlfriend by getting her flowers and taking her out for some, like, quality time. I want to do stuff like that.
I was gonna say, so like for me, my parents and my family, it's gifts,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always hated that because I felt like it was like, here is a present I can buy you with money, and I don't actually have to spend any time or effort into you. So now getting gifts makes me really uncomfortable. So that just plays into that theory for me. For me, that theory fits, but not for everybody. Anyway, interesting. Continue.
Which leads to the next one, which is receiving gifts. I honestly dislike receiving gifts. Like, listen, once in a while they're very nice. I've actually received gifts recently, and it's a really great gesture, and I appreciate it. I really do. But I don't need gifts. I never ask for gifts. If you want to get me something, get me an experience. That means way more to me. Like, I don't need things. I don't necessarily value things. And a part of that is me being very like self-sufficient, and I want to kind of do things on my own in that sense. But this is just me personally, and if this is you, it doesn't mean any judgment whatsoever. I don't get anything from that. I really don't.
Right. And that's why, I mean, these are all the different love languages. You get to pick which one is yours and which one fits for you and which one doesn't. For me, gifts is from a romantic standpoint, it's weird because our money is the same. Like our money is together, and it's like you just used our money to buy me. So I don't know. It just feels weird to me. But at the same time, like I appreciate them, and I like little surprises that are not about like the monetary value, like planning a date night, but again, to me that goes into acts of service because it's not about the gift. It's about, or like someone that's, bringing you something like flowers or something. I mean, that can be considered a gift, but for me it's really not. It's more about that surprise of like, hey, I was thinking about you and this is going to make our house look pretty. Here you go. I haven't gotten flowers in like 10 years. Andrew, pay attention.
Forward this episode to him.
No. So, if giving gifts is your thing, I show love by giving gifts. That's my thing. Like, I am fortunate enough to have money, not a lot, but I'm, my nephews, I was able to make sure that, their Christmases and birthdays were special. And my friends who that's just my thing. And I get that's probably from my parents because that's how they show love.
Goes back to my theory.
Yeah. So also, like, my love language doesn't really translate to my partner. It's like everyone else that I associate with. I feel like my love language with my partner is totally different than my love language with everyone else. Thoughts on that?
I would say you have really good compartmentalization skills. You separate it. So you have different levels of love, different types of love. So you're going to express them in different ways.
I also like my and I'm just talking about myself. We're just venting today. My relationship with my partner is really strong, like really strong. We've been together forever since high school. I have like never had any doubt that he was going to leave me or cheat on me or anything like that. So I feel like our relationship is just different in that while it still requires some effort, like genuinely, we have it figured out so well that it just is like a well-oiled machine. And it doesn't need all of these extra flourishes. I mean, they're nice for sure, like absolutely every once in a while. But it's different because I know that he's not going anywhere. Whereas with my friends and my family, I'm always like, I'm still here. I still love you. I still care because I don't see them every day, because I don't interact with my husband. I'm like, I see you all the time. I love you. You don't get extra. You don't get extra. So that's my life. Oversharing anonymous here. It's okay. No, only 1,000 people are going to see this. No big deal.
Hope this is the episode that blows up.
Okay, so what's the next one?
Well, so these last two are the ones that mean the most to me. So the first one of the last two is quality time. Oh, that I don't care what we're doing. We can literally do nothing. I find that to be quality time. I don't care if we're just sitting in a room, reading our own books, watching a show together, doing like just spending time with a person you care about means so much to me. And I go out of my way to spend quality time with people. I've I've done anything and everything to make sure I have that time with them. And it doesn't always work out, and it's unfortunate, but it means a lot to me personally to say that I spent time with this person, even if we didn't do anything in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like that's a way of giving a gift, but it's a gift of time.
Yeah.
Quality time is really important in any relationship. I feel like although this is a love language and I understand why, I also feel like this should just be an integral part of relationships. If you care about someone, you're gonna want to spend time with them. But I get like why you're saying like it doesn't matter what you do during that quality time. It's just about being together. And I think that that can get misconstrued by some people and that it has to be some big grand thing. But if you're just doing anything alone with that person and you're perfectly happy, this might be your love language.
And I'll speak a little bit of a case I have. So one client of mine in particular, he spent a lot of time working to provide for the family, right? So in a sense, that's an act of service, but also providing gifts. And this is the way that he shows his love. These are his primary love languages. But his wife wanted more of that quality time. That's how she received it, right? So she's not getting that from him. And though he's trying to show his love over the years, it's not the way that she receives it. So trying to bridge that gap has been really important in understanding where that disconnect comes from. Because it's not that he doesn't love her, it's not that he has always had this disconnect from her in terms of wanting to move forward. It's just that they don't see each other's love language as translatable. But it's really important to understand what your love languages are for hearing and speaking. Like I said earlier, mine, I don't hear and speak the same way. But also, you're not always matched up with the person that is on that same level with you. So you have to be able to open up to see that they're still showing that affection. Him working extra hours to get things for the house and for the kids and all that stuff was his love language.
Right. And I think it's important too, like to express to your partner and like for both you and your partner to understand, or partners, what your love language, both of them, what they are. So you can express to them like, this is how I show love typically, but how do you want me to show love to you? What would be more meaningful to you? And then vice versa. So it's not just like you feel like you have to adapt and understand that that person is loving you in their own way if it doesn't fit your language, but you get to say like, this is the most effective way to reach me. This is how I hear it. And this is, are you frozen? No.
No.
Okay, you were for a second. So learning, again, being aware of what yours are and what your partners are, and then communicating about that. Because like, you know, my husband's, what would my husband's be? I don't even know. I think words of affirmation. Luckily that's something that I do pretty much anyways, but I do it extra. Like if he does an act of service for me, because that's mine, I have to hype the fuck out of him for doing it, because that's how he receives that I received his love. So it's a big, they're like, yeah, boy, you get those dishes. They're so sparkly, I can see myself. Like, okay, I'm done. I don't actually say that ever.
Maybe you should. I think you would love it.
You would hate me.
I think you would change his fate.
Just saying thank you for doing the dishes. That meant a lot to me. You know, thank you for and noticing that things that they do too, and not taking them for granted. Like another thing is like household chores. It's just so assumed that we should do them, and like we each have, you know, each thing that we do, like he does these things, I do these things, but it's still really important to be like, thank you for doing that, because you don't have to do that, and I really appreciate that you do. And that goes for all relationships, not just love languages. Just be grateful and appreciative of your partner, and if they're not doing that to you, express that, hey, I'm doing all these things for you, jackass. I would like some good feedback. Don't say that.
Transition from not saying anything at all to calling them a jackass.
Don't say that.
Yeah, but
that's just my relationship, because okay, no, let's be honest. My real love language is roasting. If you love me, roast the fuck out of me so I know it's real.
Which is why we're so close. So the entire beginning of our relationship, just shitting on you regularly.
Yep. I love it because I'm able to see myself and poke fun at myself, and like, as much as I love my great qualities, I also love my bad qualities and think they're really funny. And if other people find them funny, then we're gonna click. So yeah, that's my actual love language. Roast the fuck out of me.
Words of destruction is an affirmation.
Do you have those friends though that it's like everything has to be like light and airy and bubbly, and then there's other friends I'm like, fuck you, bitch. Like there's such a big difference.
I only like I have very few male friends. The vast majority of my friends are female, but all of my closest friends, including my group of male friends and my many close female friends, it's all about just shitting on each other. Like my closest female friend, we do not get through any conversation without really going in on each other.
No, you have to insult. Insult is love.
Yeah.
If I don't like you, I'm gonna be super nice.
All your clients are like, wait a minute.
Except for when I'm working, that's totally different. That's a different me altogether.
And this is getting, I guess, more personal. For me, having that level of comfort where I can literally say or do pretty much anything within reason means that that's how much I care about you. Like I know that our relationship is not going to be altered whatsoever by me saying some mean comment, and I'm not going to say it behind your back because the whole point is I can say it to you directly. So
right, and that's a good piece. Like that difference is when we're say when me and my husband are fighting, we never call each other names or anything like that. Like our fighting, it does not look like traditional fighting. It's very much so like, what's going on? Let's talk about like how you think a therapist would fight. But and then when we're not fighting, people actually think we're fighting because we're like, you stupid bitch. Like, but it's not. It's like it's all love. So that's an important piece to remember too. That like, if you say those things on a date, like you also don't want that to translate to when you're fighting. Because for me, like those words are words of love, even though they're not nice words. But I would never in a fight ever use those as a weapon because that's how we express our love outside. So I wouldn't want to bring that into a fight.
Yeah, if I'm upset, I separate so I can process things. And in my head, I'm going to say a lot of things I know I'm not going to say in person. But when that conversation is happening and I make sure that conversation happens, it's very calm, it's very collected, it's very like, but this is what I thought, this is how you perceive it, this is why I don't agree. And that is a lot of therapeutic skill added to like our everyday conversations. But it's important to know that it's not about one-upping the other person or calling them something to make them feel bad. It's about getting to some mutual conclusion.
Right. You want the relationship isn't about like who can hurt each other the worst, who can win the fight. It's about how do we both win this fight. Thinking of it from that way really changed my perspective when I learned that, not knock down, drag out. How do we both win? Let's find a way. Not saying that I'm perfect and I don't fly off the handle every once in a while.
Just change your hair color for no goddamn.
Change my hair color. You know what? I feel like people are gonna think I'm having a midlife crisis.
I mean, you have to live life first.
Okay, but in reality, I just went to the hairdresser and I literally said, "Surprise me." I had no idea what was gonna happen.
That's one of the dumbest things I ever in my life.
But I'm okay with it because I don't.
You're again. Close, which if it were me, I would have painted your hair pink and then cut half of it, and you would have been like, "What?" And you're like, "Surprised." So I'm just saying, you don't want to go that far into it. But there's one more of the love languages. People right now are like, "There's only 4." You said there was 5.
We can't stay on topic.
The last one is physical touch, and of course, if anything, this is going to be my number one. Like quality time, I'm close to, but physical touch. I'm not like super PDA guy most of the time, but listen, something as simple as holding someone's hand, it means so much to me.
It does.
Giving a hug, like a really good, and you can attest to this. I'm a really good hugger.
It's like a solid, like, you know when you're like in a hug and someone's just like stable and you can just like, kind of like melt in. It's good stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate each other's hugs. So even though I haven't seen you in person in years,
I know.
but just giving someone a real nice, stable, like loving, embracing hug, especially someone that you don't even know that well, to feel that level of comfort with that person, amazing.
Co-regulating.
Exactly. And of course, you know, there's a PDA like giving someone a kiss or like whatever else you want to consider within physical touch. But just for me, and any level of physical connection, which is especially hard now during a pandemic, it means so much more to me.
I think people who do have this love language are probably going through a lot right now because there's that lack of, and you know, people can tell you they love you all day long, but if that's not the way that you perceive love and you can't physically be touched, that's going to have an effect on you.
Yeah.
For me, do not touch me. Do not look at me. I don't like being touched. I'm so weird. I mean, not that I don't like being touched, like holding whatever is fine, but like if we're sleeping, do not touch me. I do not want to cuddle. I do not want to be held and restrained let me go. Don't touch me. Or like strangers. I don't like touching strangers. I don't know why. I don't know what's up with that, but like if I'm in a public, like one time I was at the downtown parade for the light ceremony in Chicago. There were so many people. I was being touched on all sides and I like had a panic attack because I was just so uncomfortable. And that's not to say that like people that I love, I don't really mind. Like that's totally different. For me, it's strangers. So I'm going to say that that's not my love language just because of that. Like it's not the same consistently all the time. So if you're a stranger, please don't touch me.
I'm going to argue this against you.
Ooh, do it.
Ready? I think it not only is your love language, I think it's probably your preferred one.
What?
Because of the way you explained it. So here's my theory. Ready?
No, but yes.
Because you value it so highly, you want it to be exclusive. So if you're getting some version of that isn't like, this is 100% what I want here and now, this is kind of like my treat, this physical touch. Anything other than that is like a bastardization of the fact that you really wanted it, right?
Interesting.
So like if you're really close to someone, whether it's a family member or a really close friend or the person you love the most, and you're like, I'm going to get a hug and a kiss now, this means so much to me. And then you compare it to this random motherfucers bumping into me on the street. Like, you don't deserve the touch. Like,
you don't deserve to touch this. What are you doing?
It belongs to the closest. Like, you shouldn't even.
I like that theory. I can see that. But it's even with my family, I would say that we are just not touchy people. I've been around like friends that are extremely physical, and it like even that makes me uncomfortable. Like it's just like I really and it can be like my own. I know before I used to be that way because I just didn't want people feeling my fat rolls when I hugged them, like because I was so self-conscious. And I think that just kind of transpired into, and now I'm like, what if I smell weird? Like, don't touch me, don't come near me. Like, maybe it's my own shit. But anyway, that's all right. Let's just spill all of Caitlin's secrets today. What else can we spill while we're...
I will say this though, as a male who's always self-conscious, because you know who isn't, my weight fluctuates quite a lot. So one of the things where it always bothers me, and you I don't know if you've noticed this before, because we've done very random things in like our secluded office where we were like talking random shit, right? So like if I go to give someone a hug and I'm in my heavier state, I notice that my stomach touches like it's then before like I get a floor. I was like,
yeah.
oh.
I was just always really like, if they can't like reach around me, because like again, not only am I fat, I'm tall as hell. So sometimes people, and like my girlfriends would come up to me and they're like right here. And I'm like,
right in the middle of your chest. Like,
or shorter. And then I just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I agree with that too. It's like I'm aware that they might not be able to like wrap all the way. I don't know. And that's why I've always been obsessed with really tall men. It's like a thing of mine. Like not like tall men, like 6'7", like tall men, because I'm like, I just want to feel small and like just once.
I want to be a grape, and you just squeeze me,
baby, but just once. And I don't like. I'm married. I don't want you. I just want you to hug me one time. So if you're a 6'7" man or above and you need a hug, I am your girl.
Go back to the other episode and look up fetishes and be very careful with that.
It's not sexual. I just want to be hugged. Okay. Anyway,
for supporting the very limited options for this very specific golden time of physical touch with you.
If I was shorter, I probably wouldn't feel that way. But you know, like, okay, whatever. It's like a female thing to want to feel like a small, delicate flower, but I feel like Bumblebee.
What?
That's the first thing that came. Who would hug? Like Bumblebee is like, rawr, like you just want to. Okay, side effect of the COVID vaccine we did not expect is
what a transition from flowers to a fucking transformer.
Because like you're big and like I feel like metally, like unapproachable. Because I'm like just bah. But that's my own shit. So we're not talking about that today.
Oh god. Anyway.
Ooh, boy.
Those are the love languages. The point of knowing them is find your own, right? And maybe they're not even going to be the same thing over time. Maybe they change, they evolve, they grow, and you're going to want to find a person that is, if not matching you, because they don't necessarily need to match, but understands that this is your love language. That is the most important thing.
Willingness to provide that for you.
Mm-hmm.
While also incorporating their love language. But then also you have to do the same thing. It has to be reciprocated.
Mm-hmm. And that's the important part. It's not just having someone that knows yours, it's knowing theirs as well. It has to be a balance.
And absolutely. I think that is a pretty good spot to kind of stop. We've covered a lot. You've learned a lot about me today. But I hope that this encourages you to look up your own love language. A great resource for that is 5lovelanguages.com. And you can go and take the quiz for yourself. It's the approved one by the author of the love language book, the love language book. So if you have time, go fill that out, see what's going on. Also remember that you can't fall in love at first sight.
Yeah, despite everything Caitlin tries. So
I just want a giant to love me.
Literally for the length of one hug.
Yes. It will be a lovely hug. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna wrap that up because we are off the rails and Caitlin is delirious. So
remember to love and like and subscribe, and make sure you click our links, send us emails at TheTikDocs, one word, TheTikDocs@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, the exact same spelling, it's TheTikDocs, and come follow us on pretty much everything that we do. We're really, really entertaining, very entertaining. Not all the time, most of the time, not all the time, but we're very entertaining on TikTok. Please follow us, please enjoy, and let us love you the way you want to be loved.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week.